Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unmuted Love. This is C. Eshelman. I'm your host. I'm an attachment and trauma specialist, as you know. And today I have a guest with me, and her name is Susan Notis. And she is a parent coach. She is the founder of Inbalance Parent Coaching. I had to make sure I got that right. And she's also a contributing author to one of the books that you might have seen recently in the Perfectly Imperfect Family Conference. And so that's the name, also the name of the book. So she has a chapter in there if you want to check her out there. So welcome, Susan. It's nice to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, C. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, you are welcome. I'm delighted to talk with you about some of the things that are near and dear to your heart because they're near and dear to mine. And also there's some things that I don't talk about very much. I'm not sure why. It just never really crossed my mind. So I'm like, yay, look, it's a topic I haven't really covered in the podcast before. So yay.
Great.
First of all, though, I want to start with a little bit about your story. I read the chapter that you sent me, and it resonated with me because I also had cancer when my kids were little, and it was a bit of a wake up call. But let's hear what happened to you and what the epiphany out of all that was for you.
Sure. So I was raised in a family where the motto was like, work hard and you can accomplish anything. Now I know I had ADHD as a child, but at that point, that wasn't even a diagnosis given to children. So I really had to work hard to succeed. And so I had this culture in my family and then created a culture for myself through my adulthood of you got to work hard. You have to struggle to succeed. And succeeding was defined by financial success and the diplomas on the wall and all of those things. And along the way, my body kept the score because all that striving was creating a lot of stress and dysregulation. And at 36, when I had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, I got diagnosed with cancer. You've probably had a similar experience in that you sit there and you're like, oh, why did this happen? I really took eating well seriously and being active. And, when I really sat with myself, especially when I was in isolation with my radiation, it was like, okay, this is a wake-up call. I am running on empty constantly. I am stressed to the max and really trying for perfection in all the areas of my life, including my parenting. So it was really just like, hello, Susan, let's get back into balance here and find why are you acting this way and how can you lead a life that leads you to regulation?
Yeah, so that's quite a wake-up call. I hope most of us don't have it at that time. I actually, my kids were older. And so what was true is that I'd been living with children from difficult beginnings who had some very, very extreme attachment challenges and trauma that they were recovering from. But I didn't actually know very much about it when I got them. And so the stress that I was living under was phenomenal. And then I got cancer. And I was like, well, I know exactly what this is about. Because I was living in a very stressful family life. I didn't understand the importance of regulation, of nervous system balance, of anything related to self-care that wasn't, getting my toenails done. I was just like everybody, like, oh, okay, I don't have time to get my toenails done. And I don't feel that great after I get them done anyway. They're inside my shoes. So it's like, okay. So I didn't really know anything about it, but cancer stopped me in my tracks, right? I had to lay in bed most of the time I think it lasted about 7 months where I was so sick from the radiation and the chemotherapy, right? I was really sick. And when I came out on the other side, I actually did quite a bit of neurofeedback while I was going through treatment, which I think helped a lot. But I also had a chance to really look at how trauma had impacted my nervous system. So that was my wake-up call.
Wow. And now you're in remission and have the cancer part as part of your past. The wake-up call still is living. hopefully,
That's right.
because these lessons are given to us, and hopefully it leads us into a path of freedom. I like to think of it of freedom from the trauma, freedom from the things that make us dysregulated.
For me, it gave me purpose, right? To share what I learned about parenting children from difficult beginnings, what it does to you if you don't put your oxygen mask on first before assisting others, like your kids or anybody else for that matter, and the toll it can take, right? Give that message to as many parents as I can.
Well, it seems like we have a lot in common, because for me as well, the first thing I did after my wake-up call was I shifted from being a public school teacher into being a Waldorf teacher, which is more of a holistic model, giving the gift of a balanced, holistic childhood to children. And along the way, I saw that actually, if I really wanted to impact those children's lives in the most effective way, it was to work with their parents. Because when there is a stressed out parent, there is a stressed out child. When there is an exhausted parent, there is children falling asleep on my floor of my classroom. So I really started at that point coaching parents and saw that that work was really having an impact on the children. So I do it for the parents, but I also do it for the kids.
When people come to me, they're like, fix my kid. I'm like, yeah, okay, but first you.
Yes, exactly.
And then we'll see
exactly.
what happens. It might not be a lot left for me after you start doing some of your own personal wellness work. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, we're on similar paths. I know that you use an integrative approach. I think you're more of a coach in that way than I am. I have a program, right? And I support people through the program. I'm a therapist, so I do some individual work. But when you say that you have an integrated approach, I just wonder what you mean when you say that.
I look at integration, the integrative approach, in two ways. One is that I'm working with the whole family. So oftentimes what drives somebody to come to a parent coach is a challenge with their child, right? And like you just said, the root cause might not really have to do with the child. It might have to do with their environment. It might have to do with the parent's triggers and how they're responding to those triggers. When one person finds regulation, the rest of the family can find regulation often, especially if that person is the leader in their family. And then the other way of looking at an integrative approach is we're looking at both the individual and the family's emotional system, their mental systems, their physical systems, and their spiritual systems. And this one is unique to what I offer. And it's not about making sure you're in an organized religion. It's more just, how is your family spending time thinking about your family unit as a part of a greater world? Oftentimes, families who really don't feel comfortable in an organized religion, it can be things like, how are you going into nature? And can you find time to reflect in nature? In my family, my daughter really does love going to church. And so we go for her. We listen to the choir. It's beautiful. And I have some lovely moments there. But that spiritual piece, I think, can often be ignored when working with families. So that is just one of the systems I pay attention to when I'm looking at the whole family and this integrative approach to things.
So I have a tendency to want to look at the attachment systems in the family. I like to look at the parents' attachment style in their relationship with each other if they have a partner, and then also what the attachment is like between the parent and the child. And it's different, of course, parent to parent, and also child to different parents, right? The attachment's different. The listeners here are largely adopted parents of children from very difficult beginnings of trauma and abandonment and neglect. I wonder what it is that you could bring to what my listeners hear me talking about all the time, is about how important the attachment is, how the relationship is, and then what is it in your own attachment style that might actually not be secure, but might not be communicating safety to children.
I think one of the things that you noticed on my website is noticing the differences between a secure attachment and enmeshment. So I find the parents I work with who had infertility struggles, are adoptive parents and had to go through a very long process to become an adoptive parent, they can, because they've waited so long for this child to come into their life, can become overprotective. And this leads to an enmeshment between the parent and the child. And that's different from a secure attachment. And I think oftentimes what we're trying to do is offer secure attachment to the child, but we go overboard.
Would you describe, some people aren't going to understand or recognize what enmeshment really is. Like, are there some characteristics that we would be seeing in ourselves or in the relationship?
Enmeshment can look like very loving behaviors, but the parent's emotions and sense of self becomes tied up with the child. The boundaries get blurred and independence is not there for either the child or the adult. Some of the questions that you might ask yourself to see if enmeshment is something that's going on for you are, do I struggle to separate my feelings from my child's feelings? Do I feel guilty when they struggle? Like I failed and I need to jump in and help them? Do I have a hard time allowing them to make their own choices and fall down and make mistakes? And do I prioritize my child's well-being over my own? So much so that, like we just talked about, oftentimes we can go even to the extreme where we are sick because we are giving of ourselves too much to our children. So it might be that you don't have friendships anymore. You can't even have a hobby anymore, or you're not taking care of yourself. When I talk to older adults who their children have left the nest and they were in an enmeshed relationship, that adult is saying, I don't even know who I am without my child. I don't know what to do next in life because they essentially have lost themselves along the way in being a parent. It is a passion of mine because it's something that I lived, and I don't think it's necessary in raising a securely attached child to go to that point of enmeshment where we lose ourselves along the way.
So what does secure look like then? If it's not just caring and being loving, like you said, it looks like loving your child. What does secure look like then from your perspective?
From my perspective, it is a connection that still has boundaries. So you're attuned to your child, you're responsive to their needs, while also allowing independence for you and for your child. I think this leads to a real emotional security. It allows to resiliency in a child because you're allowing them time to explore the world on their own and have their own experiences outside of time with you, and allowing them to fall down and learn how to pick themselves up on their own.
So I can hear the kind of like collective eye rolling behind me and my listeners. And I'll tell you why. Kids from difficult beginnings have many, 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 many dysregulated behaviors, right? So they are fairly constant, and I know you have ADHD kids, so you have some sense about this, but this is beyond active. Right? This is active and distracted and destructive and sometimes calculating and distrustful and rejecting and harmful to other people and animals and things. How in the world can you just let them, right? So to quote Mel Robbins, how do you just let them?
I know it is very hard. I did have in my classroom a lot of children like this. You worry for the child, you worry for your own safety at times, and you worry for other children around them, right? So I think just establishing the connection is the very first step, and letting them know you are a safe place and you are grounded yourself and you are regulated, just kind of being a rock in a room. Like I used to just still myself and allow behaviors to happen, or to offer alternative things for those actions. Like if a child is wanting to be physical, find other things for them to be physical with. So a child who wants to push a lot, okay, you are going to help me move these logs to the log pile, and they have to roll the logs, right? Shifting that behavior into a positive thing. And then you're saying, wow, look at what you did with all that energy you had. We did something amazing. We just built this big pile of wood, right? I do feel for parents and how it's day in and day out. And you have to find times for yourself to walk away. And how do you do that? How do you find other adults that can step in for you so you can have that time away and you can still be grounded for them? How do you offer solutions in those situations?
Well, I do talk a lot with parents about boundaries and limit setting and having one foot in and one foot out. One foot in the experience and one foot stabilizing yourself so that you don't tip over by having both feet in and so far in that you drown too. Right. You can't save a drowning person by drowning too. And, to help them look at, they actually can't save their children. The children have a trajectory of their own, and all children do. It's very hard to accept that we can't impact this high level behavior in a positive way by being good people, good, loving, attentive people, right? And so what happens is parents get what you call enmeshed in correction, right? They get enmeshed in a corrective process. It's a little bit different than what you were describing, where you were saying, you just want to protect them and hover and not let them fall. But in this case, it's probably the root is the same, but it doesn't feel the same because it feels like being a constant guardrail, right? Guardrail, 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 because of how far out on a limb our kids can get. And so while I think the root is the same, you're trying to protect your kids from external harm. I think in the case of kids who come from difficult beginnings, we are often trying to protect others from the harm that our kids can do, and therefore also protect our kids. It's a two-way thing. But it's constant, right? And the behaviors can be really quite big and quite destructive. And parents often would say to me that they feel like they're in a domestic violence relationship with their children. And frankly, that is a way to describe it. They can't just leave the relationship.
Yeah,
so
it's an interesting way to think of it.
Yeah, it's a big issue. And so when you were talking about enmeshment, I'm like, wow, this is what I'm talking about with people when I'm talking about having boundaries, is to how to accept that, yes, they may fall and you actually can't save them from hitting the ground as much as you might like to, because you can't teach them by telling. You have to allow them to experience the result of what happens so that they can feel it rather than just hearing and in one ear and out the other.
I want to also offer kind of a radical idea.
Yeah.
That if your child is, let's say, in a classroom and you are fearing that they're harming others, or they're in a playground and you're fearing they're going to harm others, I think I never want a child to experience harm from another person. But in that moment of your child learning how to be amongst others, for the other child, they're also learning from the experience. And so a child that needs to learn how to speak up and set boundaries and say no, they are having a learning experience too. So I know that's a really far out thing, but maybe it offers you one glimmer of hope in situations, because that is something that, for sure, because our children are kind of bubble wrapped now and we don't allow them to have free play time as much, they aren't learning how to set those boundaries for themselves. So this boundary setting needs to happen for us as adults in their lives, but boundary setting is also really good for children to learn.
Right. It starts in childhood if you're going to have them as adults, right? So I think this sort of brings us back to let them, right? It's like, let them do what they're going to do and let others experience it and do what they're going to do, learn skills if that's what they're going to do. And I think that is what it comes down to for me too when I'm talking with parents. And it's wrestling with the emotional impact of that experience, right? Of letting them means you have to feel your own feelings of perhaps grief or failure or inadequacy or loss of control. I mean, there are lots of feelings you might have to feel if you were to let them. Also sadness, sadness that they're having to go through this or learn this way because they aren't able to learn from you telling them, right? Or teaching them or showing them that they aren't able to learn that way.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
bigness of that emotion when you're a parent is just a lot, right? It's like swallowing a fish whole. It's not too much.
Absolutely. Parenting is the hardest task we have in our lives, for sure, for your audience, even more so. So I'm sure there is a lot of deep breathing that goes on and remembering our purpose in this quest of raising children and raising children that are going out into the world to do great things and better our world. Yeah, I just offer that to families, like, thank you, your families, thank you for being so selfless and offering children from difficult beginnings a soft place to land. Because when we show these children unconditional love and we can show up for them as best we can, it really does make an impact out in the world, for sure.
Yeah, I think the thing that's hard is that it's because of the dysmaturity and the dysregulation. It's a long time in coming, right? It's the dysmaturity holds them in a younger state for a longer. And so it's parents having to trust back to sort of the beginning of what we were talking about, something bigger than themselves, that the human organism moves toward growth and wellness if we let it. And we just need to let it and also give it love and guidance, but not control and not thinking that is helpful, right? It's like getting out of the way with our thinking,
right?
Trusting that the universe has a plan.
Trusting.
It is.
Yes.
And some people are like, what, the universe has a plan? I'm like, well, I hope it does. I mean, that's my hope, is that it has a plan, not like a cognitive plan, more like the organism itself moves toward healing. And so in time, the organism will heal itself if we let it. And I think that that's important to know. And I know that because I've worked for so long in this field and with so many parents and children who were harmed in childhood. And they actually, do find their way. It's later, it's not 18. I mean, I don't even know who launches at 18 anymore, but it's definitely way in the late 20s where they start getting maturity and access to their prefrontal executive function. Right. So it's much later, but it does come. And that's what I know. And so I have faith in that. And that's what I try to share with parents, right? Is just have faith, trust somebody, trust me. I have seen it. There have been very few that haven't made it to the other side to maturity. And I'm not saying that they're all perfectly successful or they have a, picket fence and 2 kids and all that, like the fantasy says, but they do get to where they need to be.
They do. Awesome. They do. Yeah, I have seen it too. I have seen children come out of addiction, teenage addiction, to the other side and thrive. And it is heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. I had this experience in my own family, in fact, and it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching to see them really be self-destructive. And when they know that you're a guiding force in their life, standing behind them, and also letting them make their mistakes, it does help them get to the other side. We want to give up at times, but just continuing to be there with your boundaries, you're their safe space. I really do see that is the biggest difference between children who go through difficult experiences and do get to the maturity you're talking about, and the ones that sadly are lost for quite a long time.
So Susan, I want to give you some space and some time to talk about your work and what you do in real life. We talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but I want you to have a moment to talk more about it. And then also just letting our listeners here know that they're in the show notes. All of your information will be there, and they will be able to find you if they look for you there.
So yes, I founded Imbalance Life and Parent Coaching, and it is an integrative model. So I love to work with the entire family. Like we talked about in the beginning, what brings you to coaching is oftentimes not what we end up focusing on. So I really love how this integrative model helps get to the root cause and really create effective change instead of, here's my parenting tips. Here are parenting scripts. No, we're looking at everything. Like, what is your child eating? Are you spending quality time with your children? Even if it's only 10 minutes a day, how are you finding balance in your life as the adult? So my signature coaching program is called Raising by Example. And it really is at the heart of this course is this idea of co-regulation. And when parents are regulated, this echoes out and allows their children to be regulated. So this 7-week course that I offer really does focus on all the things that parents can do to show up better for their children and show up better for themselves so that they aren't the parent who is lost along the parenting journey. They still have a sense of purpose outside of their children, offering their children all the amazing benefits of being connected with them at the same time. So that's my 7-week course that right now is a one-on-one experience. Very soon, I'm hoping to launch it into an online coaching program. I'm about halfway done with that so that it can be offered to a bigger audience that way. In the show notes, there are a couple of free resources that I offer parents. One of them is called Look for the Good, Find Connection. It's 3 exercises that helps you love even the most challenging parts of your children. So this idea of fostering compassion for your child and all the good that can come from that. So that is a free workbook that is in the show notes, as well as a list of chores by age, because I really believe allowing our children to learn everyday skills and having to be a contributing part of a family unit is one of the biggest gifts we can give them to prepare them for adulthood. That is also in the show notes. And yeah, I am very happy to find time to meet with anybody who would like to have a one-on-one free consultation to learn about how I can help them or their family become more whole and more balanced.
Well, that's wonderful, Susan. I really appreciate your sharing that, and that there are some printables in the show notes. I love printables. Thank you for leaving those there. And I just really appreciate that our approach actually resonates pretty well. A lot of listeners here are in my online coaching course. Mine's a year long, though, not 7 weeks. So people are really here for the long haul. Susan's is shorter if you want to go there. You can check that out. So I like the resonance, and I feel like that's what drew me to wanting to have you come on the podcast, is to demonstrate that, we spend a lot of time talking to folks who have adopted kids. And sometimes when we have adopted kids, we think we're kind of terminally unique in a way, because we just think nobody understands us and nobody gets it. And yet our approach to families is very similar, even though your focus isn't specifically on children who come from difficult beginnings the way mine is. But all roads sort of lead to the same thing, I think. Good paths for healthy living and wellness come from some basic core principles. And I think you have them, I have them. And I love that. I love that there's an intersection for a lot of people that are working in a lot of different fields, but coming together around this parenting concept that children need to be respected, loved all the way until they can do it for themselves. And hang in there, right? That's the
hang in there. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve, for having me and for the work that you are doing in the world helping parents.
Thank you. Same to you. Yeah, we're on the same path. So
Yeah,
thank you,
absolutely.
everybody, for listening to Unmuted Love. This has been Susan Notis with In Balance Parent Coaching. And I'm so happy and delighted to have you here. And I'm glad you're going to finish your course soon because, of course, more people need really good parenting strategies. So thank you,
Thank you.
listeners, for being here. And I'll see you next episode in Unmuted Love, where your love matters when more than love is required. See you in the next episode.